What is up, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, got another deck profile. Today, we're doing Time Thieves. Now, this is pure Time Thieves. Keep that in mind. This is not the competitive Lunalight Time Thief build. This is more of just a pure Time Thief variant. You're kind of just pumping out Redoer in the same way that Guru Control is called Guru Control, even though it's sub-tears. This deck is more like Redoer Control instead of, you know, when it really is Time Thief. So it's more of a control type deck. You have mini combos you can do in the deck, but you don't do anything too extensive. So if you like a mid-range deck like that, you like the sound of those, you like pumping out rank 4s, then this may be the deck for you. And it only gets better once we move into the new Master Rules. This deck is built for right now. A couple things change, but for the most part, this is where I'm at. So, you know, as always, keep in mind, this is just my first iteration of the deck. Well, not always, but, you know, for right now, this is the first iteration of the deck. So definitely leave me any comments if you have any suggestions on other cards I should be playing here. But for now, this is just my starting list. So let's start with the monsters here. Nothing too crazy here. We're starting with 3 Winder, 3 Regulator, and 2 Bezel Ship. Whoa, I'm off base here. Let's move these guys over there. So the main thing here that really matters is knowing what they do. So Winder's like a starter slash an extender. When he's summoned, he gets you a search. He's a Stratos that also summons himself by attaching a material off any XCs you control. Regulator's the best starter in the deck. I know some people look at this card and go, like, Rescue Rabbit's terrible, Rescue Cat's terrible now. Why are we playing this? Because if you're playing the pure version, if this card resolves, it gets you so far by itself. It's a +2, essentially. There, so we kind of just play a version that kind of like helps support him. And then 2 Bezel Ship. I don't really like Chrono Quarter. I thought about playing like 1 and 1, but I just kind of like Bezel Ship more in like all areas. So yeah, so 3, 3, and 2. You don't really want to open Bezel Ship ever, but you kind of got to play it because it's a good extender. You need it for Regulator just to resolve. Then for your other starter, other than Regulator, this is like your other normal summon, which is Monk. Nothing too crazy. You discard a spell and you special summon a Winder straight from your deck, and then Winder will get you a search. So it is a +1 in that regard. Really nice. Thought about playing 3, but I didn't want to overbrick on you know, too many normal summons. So 2 is just fine to help, you know, patch up the consistency there for good normal summons. And then we have 2 Dinotherium. This is the only monster extender I play in the deck. If you don't know what Dinotherium does, this is a sort of a obscure card. He says you can just special summon it from your hand for free, but if you do, your opponent can target a level 4 or lower monster. Wait, is it? It has to be a level 4 exactly. So it can target any level 4 monster in either player's graveyard and special summon it back to their field. Most of the time when I use this, I don't have any level 4s in my grave. And so, but it is something you need to keep in mind when you are playing this card. The reason I'm playing this is just with Regulator, stuff like Photon Thrasher and Kage Tokage mess him up because he needs to be the only card on the field to do his effect. So like you'd have to summon both of those, and he would never be on the field by himself to even get his effect off first. So Dinotherium helps you play around that, and he could be normal summoned. Half the time I just end up normal summoning him because he's the only normal summonable monster I have in my hand. But if you need him, he's there. And give your opponent like a shitty little material. Doesn't even matter half the time because you can set up a good amount of disruption pretty frequently in this deck there. So yeah. 2 Dinotherium. Then for the hand traps, we're just on 3 Ash and 3 Veiler. Nothing too crazy here. I know people may say like, oh, but John, Impermanence is better than Veiler. I agree overall. I think it's a better card. But I think in this deck, we're playing an extender that I'll show you later, but Impermanence conflicts with that, specifically going second. So I didn't want to risk like ruining a hand or making it so you can't even make a rank 4 in a certain hand just because of you're playing Impermanence. But that's it for the monsters there. Nothing too crazy. Moving on to the spells, we've got 3 Instant Fusion. This card's really good utility. You can either just get a free level 4 on the field for it, so just an extender, or going second, you can just go Thousand Eyes, steal a monster. Then you can go into something like Link Reaver to protect yourself, or you can go Gravity Controller to try and maybe add another monster that's in the extra monster zone, which is pretty nice. You get really good value off this. There, 3 Call by the Grave. This is mostly just here for your Regulator. Like I said, Regulator is so strong. If it resolves, you're going to be in such a good spot that you just want to protect it. Ash is a kick in the nuts for that card because you lose your normal summon and you don't even get to keep it on the field. And it's just because it tributes itself for cost. So you really want to protect that from Ash if you can. So Call is very important. It's just really good against like almost any matchup right now. So that's really nice as well. 2 Desires, 1 Upstart Goblin. That's all I play for like draw power stuff. Nothing too crazy here. I know what you're. I know like I don't really like Upstart Goblin in decks that it doesn't have synergy in. The only way it has synergy in this deck is Summoner Monk, and I really don't want to ever draw a Summoner Monk without having a spell. So this just gives me 1 more card. It increases consistency a little bit, and also increases the opportunity of opening it with a Summoner Monk, or just making sure Summoner Monk opens with a spell in some way. And then like the Desires just. Like, the deck doesn't really care about it. Most of your stuff is 3-ofs that you really care about, and the free card is just really nice. Or just baiting Ash before going into Regulator can be a lifesaver as well. For another mid-range card, I'm weirdly on 2 Forbidden Chalice. This is a weird option. A lot of people just think this card is bad because it's, like, kind of old at this point, and they think it's, like, power crept. But I actually think it's really good. I just think it's a really good mid-range card. Going first, you set it, and it's just essentially a set impermanent. It's just a set negate. Monster negate, monster effect negation is at a premium in Yu-Gi-Oh! And going second, you activate it into a board to either bait out a negate or just turn off a monster until the end of the turn. And also the very, very rare chance that that 400 attack points for your own monster could be the difference between, winning a duel or not. So that's really nice as well, but not too crazy. So I just liked it as a good mid-range card. I already have the hand traps. Instead of playing more hand traps, you have more mid-range card where you could hand trap them once, and if they make like an okay board, this can be cracked through the rest of that board, or it's just a disruption. Just has a lot of use to it. Playing into IP Masquerena and stuff like that is really good. There for the rest of the spells, 1 startup, 1 hack, 1 monster reborn, 1 double or nothing. Gosh, I gotta remember to keep sliding these over. Startup just special summons a Time Thief from hand. Hack really doesn't do much of anything. It like makes Xyz monsters summon the turn, or the turn they're summoned, like untargetable and indestructible by card effects, which is whatever, and it can give them a small boost. Reborn is just an extender, and then double or nothing is here because you can make rank 4 so easy, so you kind of have to play double or nothing in the Utopia double package. If you are playing a rank 4 deck, you kind of just have to, because like stealing free wins that way is just, you have to take them when you can. So double or nothing. These cards are mostly bricks, not Monster Reborn entirely. Some hands it can be not that good, but most of the time it's pretty good. These are still bricks. You don't really want to draw these or this, but outside of that, you don't really have many bricks outside of like maybe you could call Bezel Ship, but everything else is like fine. So there's those. And then for the traps, we're on 2 Time Thief Flyback, 2 Time Thief Retrograde, and 3 the Phantom Knights of Shade Brigandine. So when we're looking at these, this guy's really, really good. He equips any card, any Time Thief card from your deck to an Xyz monster, a Time Thief Xyz monster. Then from your graveyard, it can banish itself as a quick effect to target a card in your opponent's graveyard and equip it to a Time Thief monster you control. So it disrupts the graveyard while also just getting traps on Redoer so that he can be a disruption. Or sometimes if he already has a trap, you just give him a spell so that he can be a draw. Like this just becomes like an Upstart Goblin at that point. And then it has the disruption engrave, which is really nice. This card literally just says, well, you control Time Thief Xyz, you can negate the activation of a spell or trap card and equip it to the Xyz as material. And then Shade Brigandine, this is literally just a monster. It's an extender as a monster. This is the card that would conflict with impermanent, so that's why I'm not on imperm. The other thing that matters with this, though, I know it's just a 1-for-1, it's a body on board. It gets a trap on Redoer. If you just open this in any like level 4 that's normal summonable, this at least just gets you a Redoer with a really strong disruption. A disruption that says just non-targeting, non-destruction, put a card back on top of the deck. It's pretty good, right? So I actually really like this card here, and that pretty much does it for the main deck. I'm always playing 40. Not always, but I'm almost always playing 40. So that solves it for the main deck. Moving into the extra, though, we've got 3 Time Thief Redoer and 2 Perpetua. This deck, like I said before, can probably be called Redoer control. So this is your guy. He does everything, and Perpetua kind of supports him. I know she's new, so if you don't know what she does, she says during standby phase, either player's standby phase, you can attach a material to special summon a Time Thief from graveyard. And then also, as a quick effect, you can just once per turn equip any Time Thief card you control from your deck, or any Time Thief card from your deck, to a Time Thief XC you control other than herself there. So she can be a quick effect to just throw a trap on Redoer to make him a disruption, throw a spell on him to make him draw cards, or a monster to help him dodge things. Because if you don't know, he has a standby phase effect where each standby phase he just equips the top card of your opponent's deck to himself. Then once per turn as a quick effect, you can just attach materials whichever different type materials, monster, spell, or trap, and then he applies 3 whatever effects based on the ones you detached. If you detach a spell, you draw a card. If you detach a monster, you put a face-up card on the field back on the top of the opponent's deck. That does not target or destroy, which is really nice. And then if it's a monster, he banishes himself into the end phase, so he tags out. He's also 2400, which is pretty big. I mean, it's really big for a rank 4, for real, though. But yeah, you pretty much just control the board with him. He is your entire deck. Next up, it's pretty self-explanatory. We already showed the double or nothing, but there's a little Utopia package. If you're playing a deck that really makes rank 4s easy, you got to play this stuff. So you have the Utopia double, you have the Utopia, and I'm playing the Lightning just as like an insurance policy. Sometimes you have kind of rare-ish duels where your opponent doesn't set up a very nice board or something, or maybe you crack through their board, but you're able to put together a rank 4 at the end of it. But maybe your opponent had one unknown card in their hand the entire time, and you didn't even realize that like they just like held an Ash the entire time. So when they ashed the Utopia double to search for double or nothing, you're kind of like, ah, shiz, I'm in a pickle. Because I think if they ash this, it's all one effect, so you don't even get to special the Utopia. But at least with this, you can just drop the Lightning right on top of it and be like, all right, at least I got a 5k Lightning that they can't respond to, and he gets 5,000. Like, at least that's something, right? So it does help you play through like odd situations like that, or if you can kind of play a little more recklessly with this, just to bait stuff out, and you still get to go into a 5,000 monster, as long as they didn't have like a negate and destroy or a removal card for you. So you just got to be careful there. But I thought that was worth it. It's come up a little bit, but not crazy often. But that's what it's there for the rare situations. There, and then for the last of the XCs, we're playing 1 Tornado Dragon, 1 Evil Swarm Exciton Knight, and 1 Abyss Dweller. Nothing too crazy here. Dweller's there, like, you never summon Dweller like game 1. I never have, at least, because there are just definitely decks that just do not give a steamy turd about Abyss Dweller at all. So I won't make him until it's game 2 or 3, and I know what my opponent's playing, and I know Dweller can just like kick him in the nuts. So, but yeah, Dweller's really cool. He's a good card. Exciton Knight, also pretty good. Like kind of like the same thing as what was I thinking? The Utopia stuff. Like once you bait everything out, you can just kill them. But if they don't have a situation where like you can Utopia double them, you can go Exciton Knight and just like wipe the whole board. One thing that's really good with that is like what is it? Forbidden Chalice, because you can just like turn monsters off. And if they don't have a negation for this, you just like turn off the monsters that would be disrupting you. Then you just extend, maybe bait out 1 or 2 more disruptions, and then you just make him and wipe the whole board. And they just lost like all their advantage. So that can be really, really strong as well. And then Tornado Dragon. This card is just for back row matchups mostly. Again, kind of like Abyss Dweller. If you're not summoning Abyss Dweller, it means you're probably playing like Guru or Altergeist or something, in which case this will be really good. So if this isn't good, you can just go this and just try and you know, take 2-for-1s with Tornado Dragon. There. And for the instant fusion, Mud Dragon and Thousand Eyes, this is it. This is your level 4, and this is your just going second. If you already have a play, this at least just baits stuff or just starts ripping through the board, which is really nice. And then for kind of the Thousand Eyes, we have the Linkaribo, sorry, Linkaribo is another card. And we also have Gravity Controller. I think this card's really, really spicy. I don't think this is the best deck to utilize it, but you definitely can. If you don't know what this card does, he just takes any non-link monster in the extra monster zone. So any XZs or any fusion, so you could literally just fusion out Thousand Eyes, instant fusion out Thousand Eyes, take a monster, or at least like bait something. You could bait an Impermanence, bait a Veiler, bait like some soft negation that doesn't like negate and destroy, and then you just go into Gravity Controller, and then also just take the monster that was in the extra monster zone. So you baited a negate, and you took a card from the extra monster zone, or you just did both. You just took a monster and did it if they didn't have a negate for it, which is really cool. So you can get really good value off of this. Also, sometimes I have a Perpetua in the extra monster zone, and you've already used both its materials, so now it doesn't really do a whole lot. And sometimes I just want to like get better value off it, because it's just like a 2500 booty 1900 beater. This at least just outs any one card in the extra monster zone, so that can absolutely come up. And so I want to keep this here just in case. I think this is good. I think like I think it's a lot better than Linkaribo in a lot of situations, but sometimes Linkaribo can be nice, because some people can like try and bait your redoer in battle phase, and it's like really annoying, because like if it was a trap redo or whatever and they baited it and you had to use it early, you may just be sitting there with like not enough disruption, and you're just kind of like, fuck, I can't really do much now. So that can be really awkward. So I do like Linkuriboh to help kind of protect against that. So I'm playing both. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck profile, guys. We've got a pretty cool control deck here, and I'm really excited to see if this deck can do anything. I know mostly it's just being tested right now as a part of the Lunalight deck, and so I'm curious to see if this deck can stand on its own. It's a cool control deck, definitely way different than Lunalights are, than like the Lunalight version. But I still think it's cool. I still think it's interesting. I think it could potentially top a regional. I think it's fairly consistent. I did test hands all today, and like most hands, like your bad hands are like just ending on Redoer and like a hand trap and like a Forbidden Chalice. Like that's like a bad hand. But most of the time you just end like Redoer, Perpetua, 1 or 2 set cards, and like maybe like a hand trap in hand. Like that's usually what you're ending on, which is actually pretty hard to break through. This deck doesn't actually top deck that well, but the reason it can grind so well is just because Redoer is so sticky. Every time they try to out him, you just tag out. And then like he comes back every time. So they still on the next turn have to at the very least deal with a 2400 beater, plus maybe he rips a spell, so you just get an extra draw. So that gives you grind ability, or you just rip a trap and then like you actually have a legit disruption again now built into a beater, which is really strong as well. So just such a good card. You're really just playing all through Redoer, and yeah, it's just that good. So that's pretty much going to do it for me here, though, guys. Definitely let me know your thoughts down below on this deck profile. This is a very early rendition of this deck with all of its support now. I'm curious to see what you guys think. It definitely gets better in Master Rule 5 as well. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier. I think I did. But yeah, you're just not restricted into that zone. You don't have to play around like the extra monster zone. You just summon everything everywhere. You don't have to do specific sequences. It gives you more freedom in the way you want to play, which is awesome. So that'll end me off here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace.